So Gary, first of all, thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate you making your way down. Gary's here to talk about Experian's journey with CPQ, or Configure Price Quote, for those of you that aren't familiar with the acronym. So as Ben mentioned, my name's Christina Kemper, and I'm part of what's called the Sales Cloud within Customer Experience here in our region in EMEA North. And we work with customers to help them perform better along the sales journey. So to help our customers to close more deals faster and close larger deals while doing that. Within the UK, we work with companies such as Vodafone and Telefonica UK to help their selling channels perform better through commissions and incentives management. And we work with companies such as Experian, who's here today, of course, with Gary, and for Micah UK to help them with pricing and quoting. So first of all, when we think about CPQ, our customers leverage the platform to help with direct sales, indirect or external sales, as well as customers, to be able to quickly and easily configure a quote, which leads to a faster time to quote, so a shorter sales cycle, a larger deal through cross-sell and upsell recommendations, and also an overall better customer experience and a better sales experience. So we're here on the customer experience stage. We're talking about how CPQ and pricing and quoting helps with the overall customer experience. So let's try to answer that question. So I think in order to do that, when you think about the B2C model, it's really clear, right? You know, customers go online, they find the product that they want to buy, they put together a quote, they can purchase online, right? In B2B, it's a little bit different, right? You've got to think about the overall selling experience. But we also have to remember that buyers, even in a B2B world, are consumers. So they're used to having that consumer experience that they get when they're purchasing products, and they expect that in a B2B sales cycle, right? So what happens is when they go to a seller and they don't get the information that they need, the quote that they need in a timely manner, what do? They go to the competition. But typically, they don't come back and tell you they're going to the competition, so you've got a lost customer. So a bad selling experience equals a bad customer experience. So that's a little bit of context, but we're here today to talk about Experian. And Gary, one of the things I really love about your story is that you've really leveraged our technology in a very strategic way to align your regions from a people and process perspective. So I mean, you're such a global business with so many regions, and like many members in the audience, have grown through acquisition, right? So it's really great to see how you've leveraged our technology for global pricing. But before we get into the detail, can you just kind of give a short overview in terms of, Experian, who you are and your role?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, by the way, today. So just a little bit about Experian. We're a FTSE Top 100 organization, trading across 39 countries, 16,500 employees globally. We're primarily known for being one of the world-leading credit bureaus, rightfully so. So if you're going for a credit card or a mortgage, it's typically our data behind the scenes that's helping you guys make informed decisions. We are one of the world's leading software vendors. We've been applying our highly sophisticated decisioning systems and analytics platforms into financial industry for a very long time as well. So a diverse organization, as I say, quite a lot of different acquisitions over time as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's take it back to, I think it was 2014, 2015 when we first started working together, right? So talk to me a little bit, or talk to the audience a little bit about that in terms of what led you to kick off the CPQ project and what made you kick off the project when you did?
Okay. So, well, going back kind of 6 years or so, I'd mentioned just before that we'd acquired quite a number of businesses over a 10-year period. And our strategy was to look at aligning our internal systems to try and drive a greater end-user experience, but also a client experience. We had 25 disparate CRM systems. So the major program was to tackle consolidating that to one platform. And within that, also try and create more harmonization and standardization across our global business. As part of that, we also recognized, based on feedback from sales, that we needed to try and add more sophistication into the CRM application. So that's when we turned to Configure Price Quote, CPQ. So that kind of kicked us off on that journey, and certainly kind of from a sales perspective, we've done CRM many times, but the one thing we had never done is really CPQ. So it was a new journey for us with a lot of learn, which we'll kind of go into, during the course of the conversation. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then I guess within that journey, you had a lot of different options. And what led you to choose SAP CPQ or our solution? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in essence, we kind of created a panel of sales and operational leaders across the business. We didn't want this to be an IT-driven decision. I sit within, and I forgot to mention, I sit within a global sales operations role, accountable for anything across the quote to contract space. And we absolutely wanted this to be something that the business felt that they were part of from the decision-making process, rather than being done to them, which is typically what's happened, with previous CRM applications. So we looked at, various different vendors. What stood out for us that was formerly Callidus, which is now SAP, was the engagement that we received, not only from an executive alignment piece, but also taking the time to really think about what it is we're trying to achieve. It wasn't a pitch just around how to deliver a CPQ application. It was in essence, a joint partnership in how we go on a journey together. So not just deliver, a positive CPQ experience, but also to help us move towards that more transformational piece around trying to drive a more central hub for where sales can actually go to one place and be able to do their quotes, manage their opportunities, and beyond that, tackle things like e-sign and everything else. So we felt that when you guys came in, you took the time to actually think about our story. And like I said, it wasn't a pitch about CPQ. It was how do we become a partner with you, which was for us and also our business stakeholders, was something that differentiated you from the competitors. So that was exciting for us.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, if I remember correctly, was around challenging you a little bit, right, throughout that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things, as I said, we'd never gone through a CPQ implementation before. So when we were looking at our first deliverable, you guys came back and said, you're looking at 6-7 months to deliver this. And some of your competitors were telling us they could do it in 2-3 months. So we didn't really have any background to gauge whether what was right and wrong. So we came back to you and said, hey, guys, why is it that you believe it's going to take this amount of time? And actually, you stood by that amount of time, and you talked us through the fact that you delivered, I think, thousands of implementations of CPQ, and therefore could back up as to why these are the steps you're going to follow. So again, for us, that was good because we were trying to obviously challenge you guys, but you came back with fact-based data that really allowed us to go, okay, that makes sense. We can build trust on that process. Let's take that journey. So that's a really good point, yeah.
All right, great. Well, thanks for that overview.
No,
now let's flip to talk a little bit about CPQ and how it's transformed your business. I mean, we're here at Innovation X talking about innovation, technology, how it's transforming business. So talk to us a little bit about how CPQ has transformed your business.
Yeah, I think what it's done more so than anything is actually align business functions in terms of, when we went through this process, we were trying to work out, who are stakeholders within this quote to contract process. And what we established was there was obviously sales, product, commercial, sales ops, and finance, which are aligned to commercial. But these are all key stakeholders that needed to have skin in the game. And for this to be successful, they all had to have a voice and also had to take accountability for this. And I feel that in terms of CPQ, what that's allowed us to do at an executive level is join these groups to actually get them to talk about things as a collective versus silos, which has happened previously on other projects. So that's been one of our biggest takeaways. Obviously, the benefits for sales, being able to develop get through a quote, end-to-end process relatively quickly. It's been a change of mindset and actually quite a lot of change management around how we have adapted sales to be able to take on this type of process. So yeah, it's given us more than we thought, and it's changed things that I wouldn't have necessarily thought would have changed from a people perspective, which is normally one of the most difficult things that you come across, not the technology, but the people and the behaviors.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. That's what I said, in the opening, how strategic the technology has been for you in terms of really enabling those other elements around people and process. Yeah. One of the other things we've talked a bit about is kind of within that, how the data has really helped you to transform, right? In terms of having that global data and making pricing decisions.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if we go back to where we had no CPQ system, in essence, I'm guessing some of you folks that may not have CPQ have lived in this world where everything is either Excel spreadsheets, emails, disparate processes, people getting stuff signed off, and you have no audit trail, no governance around how did you actually get signed off for that deal. So for us, one of the big challenges was trying to help the business understand what does current state look like and where is it we need to go. The other side was trying to convince the business that once we go through this process and we start to collate the data, we are going to be in such a strong position as the data starts to flow through to really understand what's going on in our marketplace. Now, typically to get that data before CPQ, you'd have a number of people trying to pull stuff together. I'm not going to say it was fact-based in any way, but you had no audit trail in terms of understanding how they pulled that information together. Within CPQ, you've got dashboards straight away, and in essence, we enforce to the leadership that they use that data to drive change. If that information isn't in there, how can we speak about driving change? And ultimately, it comes through the sales experience, engaging with the client. So this is client data coming back in, so it's powerful information. So that has been a real game changer for us, absolutely. And that sits at an exec level and has a lot of sponsorship and eyes on that all the time in terms of how we're evolving, how we competing with our competitors in the marketplace, how agile are we in terms of pulling levers to change our pricing or to present different solutions, and CPQ enables us to do that, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm so excited about our latest conversations around AI as well. So kind of taking that to the next level. You've got the analytics, right?
Yeah.
From a global perspective, and we're starting to move into AI. I don't know if you want to comment on that as well.
Yeah, so again, with the AI piece, you have to build confidence in your data. You can't just switch this thing on and expect it to predict or give you the right answers. You've got to put a lot of effort into making sure that your processes and your data are as good as it can be. I think with the AI piece, what it will give us as we move into that era, if you will, is rather than retrospectively looking at data that's already happened, this is all about the now. And that's going to be a game changer for us, and also an evolution for us in terms of how we build trust with sales for them to look at and go, this is recommending I do what?
Right.
So it's another part of the journey, and maybe something we could come back kind of next year and share in terms of where we've got to on that. But yeah, exciting.
No, absolutely. So let's talk about benefits. How have you been able to measure the benefits you've received from the solution, and can you share what some of those metrics are?
Yeah, we've gone through various different methods of looking at time to quote. Ultimately, I guess the one thing I've taken from listening to sales is time is a commodity to them. Giving them time back is the best gift you can give them, apart from a big paycheck at the end of the month. So with CPQ, our aim is ultimately to drive efficiency. There are three pillars for us: efficiency, adoption, and value. The value piece is all about how we can create levers within our sales cycle to ultimately drive, upsell, cross-sell, and ultimately give our customers a better user experience and empower them to actually tap into the power of Experian, which is another thing that this allows us to do because it's a global application. The other side to the benefits is again really about creating visibility and transparency. I think it's a real game changer. There's no hiding place. We try and create competition through this. I mean, our executive leader is all about creating, whether it's revenue or whether it's CPQ. It's challenging folks to really think about, hey, we're not just selling on price. There are things that we can bring to the table, and CPQ allows them to do that. Not to say that CPQ creates the solutions behind the scenes, but it enables them to have a much broader conversation. So from that perspective, that and the fact that we're starting to see, which I mentioned earlier, business peers across regions talking to each other about what they're doing, that's fantastic. It's so much more powerful than me turning up in a room and saying, hey guys, what's going on? Actually, we're hearing an SVP in North America talking to one in the UK, and they're talking about things that they're doing to try and improve this experience.
The collaboration is phenomenal. Yeah, it's
fantastic. I can sit back and just watch it.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's what we want to continue to drive, is that experience. And there's still plenty of work for us to do. Yeah. There is no end game with this as far as I'm concerned. But it's all about evolving. It's all about where we can, adding value in small chunks and taking on feedback from our communities to try and evolve, and ultimately lining up with some of the innovation that SAP are bringing. So yeah, it's again exciting for us.
So let's talk a little bit, on the customer experience stage. How has CPQ helped Experian to provide a better experience for sales and for your customers?
I go back to there's a couple of things. So if I think about kind of end-to-end process, the way that we like to, you can crudely measure how we drive CPQ and e-sign as well, is an end-to-end process. So do we see a salesperson working through CRM, creating their quote, going through approvals, creating the document, going through e-sign and getting it to the client and getting it back into the system? That's what we call end-to-end. The benefit to that, not only is it allowing the salesperson to work within the realms of their own discount thresholds, because ultimately we give them the ability to do things within their own time versus having to go through approvals. But ultimately, even the approval process, it's far better to have that than kicking around emails trying to work out who should sign off what. I also think in terms of the benefits, you're seeing from a back-end perspective, less error rates in terms of our alignment to billing. So any contract or quote that gets kicked in from CPQ, we can actually measure a zero error rate versus anything that's being done manually today. That's huge, because the way that impacts the client is if a salesperson was to go off piste, if you will, and create a document working with legal, ultimately anything that has manual can create errors. It only takes to get one piece of information wrong in that contract. The customer will come back and go, this isn't right.
Right, so bad customer experience.
What does that create?
Right.
So we're measuring that through our NPS, and we're starting to do more around that piece. Bad customer experience, cost of having to actually go back around to try and fix that, frustration from the client because perhaps they're not getting set up quickly. And to your point earlier, if it's a relatively small deal, they may think, well, I want to go somewhere else.
Right.
So these are the sorts of benefits that you can start to see if it's ingrained properly. It's not just about creating efficiencies, there's so much more to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of my other favorite points about your story is really the sales efficiency side of that. And then starting to think about, providing time back for salespeople versus, having them spend time going through spreadsheets, putting together quotes, allowing them to talk with customers, right? That customer experience, that's what changes the game in terms of, your brand. And
it's the biggest, as I say, the time commodity piece. Sales just want to spend time speaking with their clients because they, rightfully so, they're put under pressure to deliver numbers. So they don't want to be having to go through 3 or 4 different systems. They don't want to be having to reach out to 8 or 9 different people. They don't want to have to work with legal. They're not contract folks. What they want to be able to do is to go into a system, put in their numbers, get through an end-to-end process quickly, and give the client the best experience they can.
Yeah,
and this is what this is helping us to do. There's still work to be done, but we're certainly on that path, on that journey.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got just a couple minutes left.
Okay.
So any quick recommendations in terms of your peers? This might be a longer question, and we're here, throughout the day, but, top level recommendations for any of your peers that are looking at, pricing and quoting and how they can improve.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of our deliverable, we partner up with our global strategic pricing team. We have them go ahead of the delivery team to go in and work with the business to look at price strategy, to look at their products, to look at their documentation, to look at their approval matrices. All that work should be done up front before you get into any project. If you cut through that piece and you have the business buy-in and ownership, that's going to help you accelerate in terms of delivery. The other side is ensuring that you've got full sponsorship from the business you're working with and that they're accountable and they realize this is their tool, this is their solution, this is their process. CPQ enables that. So, if you sit in a group that manages the technology, that's great, but the business own the process. So that sense of ownership needs to be there for them to see the value. And the other piece is the whole change management aspect, to make sure that you're coaching your salespeople, because often when you work through a price strategy for CPQ, it's a change from what they've previously worked with. And it's important to educate and coach those guys through that. So when you do switch this thing on, and it's not just about creating efficiencies, it's about them understanding why we're doing what we're doing and what it means to the client and what it means to them. So that'd be my biggest advice to this group, is to make sure you've got that engagement right. Absolutely.
Right, that's really helpful. And Gary, thank you so much for being here on stage today to talk to us and talk to all of our customers. We really appreciate it. And we'll be here all day. Come up and talk to us, with any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.